Okay, cue the drum roll. And for number 1, we have... Oh no, I don't have the Roma Romaji.
Even I have it. How is this possible?
Welcome to the Visual Kei Podcast. I'm your host Frederick, also known as Whirling Black, and with me today I have, as usual,
Your co-host Alexi.
And I'm your podcast editor, James, also known as Plant.
And on today's episode we're going to discuss our personal top 10 favorites of the year 2020. And that was kind of a challenge, really, right guys? 2020 wasn't the best year for Visual Kei or music in general.
Wasn't as bad as the first take of this episode. Jesus.
Yeah, sometimes we record episodes and they're just not great. We're just at the end of the episode, we're like, we're not going to use that.
It was a great moment as we all together realized that this ain't it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still sad about some jokes getting lost, but I will just recycle them at some point.
The only people laughing at those jokes is the competition.
Nah, I think the Kisaki Rooster one was great.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Oh, yeah, that was good.
But yeah, so we're going to present our top 10 choices in a sort of clickbaity style where we count down from 10 down to our favorite release of last year.
And yeah, this is basically just our kind of semi-arbitrarily chosen picks to represent 2020. It's not really like all, musical quality or something. We think these are definitely the best releases of 2020. Some stuff had to be left out just for, the variety's sake. And
also we kind of felt like we wanted to display a wide array of Visual Kei styles and not just focus on like one kind of it, because some of us have a very specific preference.
Yeah, so sorry to blow the fucking top 10 clickbait format right out of the gate.
I'm impressed that we actually got 10. I was telling my friend about it and she's like, 10 from 2020?
Yeah, it's quite interesting, and I think that some gaps were certainly filled by Alexi. Like our number 10, for example, I hadn't heard until he told me about it.
See, I mean, there was a bunch of stuff in 2020. It wasn't the strongest year, of course, but the more research I did for this, the more I realized that bands were actually active last year despite Corona interrupting everyone's release cycles.
Yeah, I mean, you have to live somehow, so if you can't play gigs, at least maybe you can put out some songs to get some ramen money.
Yeah.
So yeah, without further ado, I guess let's move on to spot number 10, which is Rakugaki and their self-titled album. Okay, so since you were the one who told me about this release, Alexi, could you give us some info on Rakugaki?
Okay, so what about that Eins 2.0 with the star-studded lineup of X-May, Dara, and Giga, who are not even on Spotify anymore, by the way. They were just obliterated from the face of the earth. But we still got something good, and that's Rakugaki LP, which is the only salvageable thing from the train wreck of Eins 2.0. I like their early stuff a little bit better. It was more nu metal-y, the production was cleaner, a little poppier, but this one has those punky Gossip Gazette vibes, and they work out for me perfectly.
I was going to say that I feel like this album kind of reminds me a lot of Gossip, except not as good at emulating the early Gazette sound. I mean, it's a nice tribute sound, but it's not as frantic as Gossip was, I feel.
No, I feel like they're not trying to emulate it, let's say. Like, that was just Gossip was just like a very ferocious rip-off band. But these guys have their own thing going. It's poppier, more pop-punky, I think.
Yeah, I can see what you mean. Maybe it's more sort of like a vague feeling I get from the punky-esque sound that it's cassette related, or because it's Eins. I don't know.
Well, see, this is like Ruder, the album.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's kind of the feeling I get, and I do like it. I mean, it's certainly a competent release, and it's rare for a band to put out a full album in 2020, so I commend them on that. Was this like a lost release, or did they stick around for a while longer?
No, they did have a single later.
Okay.
And even this album is actually like kind of pre-corona epidemic. Same with the Giga full length.
Oh yeah, that's true. This was 1st of April, yeah.
Yeah. But now they released one single later in the year, and then they disbanded. And now they're just waiting for Yukika to summon them once again under a different band name in Eins 3.0.
Yeah, maybe they will be the band that will, since there's this new band that is doing Grievous songs, maybe they will bring Rakugaki back as like a gossip cover band.
I think they actually have a Rakugaki member in it, so I'm not super optimistic about Rakugaki coming back in this present form. So who knows?
All right. James, do you have any takes on this one?
Oh, I didn't listen to this one. I listened to a single from October instead.
Oh yeah.
which I pasted to you last week, and I'm like, this is the one we're talking about, right? And you're like, yeah, that's it. And this morning you're like, no, wait, that's wrong.
Yeah. That's
So I
true,
have
sorry.
comments on this one.
Frederick sent me a message about it. I was like, that's not right.
yeah. That's what I thought too. Because I was also going to listen to the single first, and I was like, but we talked about an album that we were supposed to do. Like, well, oh, yeah. But yeah, that's fair. That's fair. So you didn't really get an impression of their sound.
No, and to be honest, I kind of forget what the single sounds like at this point anyway.
Fucking ringing endorsement from the VKPC crew. Nah, don't listen to these guys. I fuck with this band. They were good stuff. Check out pretty much the entire discography if you can. Kind of pop punky, Gazette Ruder-ish, but an entire album. Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I liked it too. I only gave it one complete listen, but I didn't feel like turning it off at any point. So I think for my standards, that's quite good. So moving on to spot number 9, we have Ochita Koto no Aru Sora by Deer and Grey. Okay, so people might be surprised seeing Deer and Grey so low in this list, considering the previous episodes we have done on the band, but honestly, this single is not their most standout single. Like, the title track is good, I really like it, but I feel like it's also a par for the course heavy Deer and Grey single song, and the production value, as usual, is awful, because so the song kind of lacks punch and sounds very tinny. But overall, I really enjoy it, and the PV is great. How do you guys feel about it?
Yeah, if it was up to me, I probably would have omitted this entirely. But there is a little bit of that. Yeah, ringing endorsement, jeez. There's a little bit of that when you just get spoiled when it comes to certain bands. And if this song was released by any other band, I probably would have been a lot more impressed. So it's still a solid track, especially the last half a minute. The Freak Out, which is not a part of the radio edit, is very cool. And when I hear stuff like that, I wish they did more of it. Less formulaic, more wilder, out there stuff.
Yeah, the softer sections that are interspersed throughout the song kind of also saves it from being totally mediocre. It kind of elevates the song a bit.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it's from Insulated World because of those parts, I think.
Yeah. James, did you get a chance to listen to this one?
Yeah, I thought it was all right. I liked the B-side better, the remake of Clever Sleazoid.
Get out of here.
What, you didn't like it?
No, I think it's dog shit.
I thought it was better. I liked it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair point. I actually think that the Clever Sleazoid remake is all right, but to me it doesn't feel necessary. Like, And also the way that the song is kind of completely played out the same way as the original, but the vocal melody is different, really trips me up as well as someone who has listened to this song for like 15 years, to not be able to like sing along or something to the song the way you usually did.
I actually didn't know it was a remake. When I listened to it the first time, I looked at the title and I'm like, oh, okay.
Oh, wow. That's very interesting. That's a very interesting perspective.
Yeah, and that perspective might have helped. Again, it's like two things at play here. One, it's super similar to the original in a way, so it just doesn't make me hate it or love it. I'm sort of in the middle. And then number two, I'm just thinking the original is so much better. So what's the point of this? It just sounds like them performing it live now.
Yeah, like I said, it doesn't feel necessary. But I mean, if I came with the same perspective as James, I probably would love it too, because I wouldn't have the original to reference it against. So that's actually a unique take right there. I don't think anyone else has not heard Clever Seaside before.
By the way, is this technically the only song with 3 different versions?
No, there's Ash. Well, Ash has 4. Yeah.
Oh shit! All right, well that's the winner.
They did 2 different recordings in '97 and one in 2000 and one in the new remake.
You don't want to talk about the Followers live version?
I think it's okay, but I mean, usually these live tracks are just added to pad the runtime and justify the sales cost, because the band don't really want to record an extra B-side. So I feel like the management kind of just throws these random live tracks at the end of the single so they can boost the price by another 500 yen or something.
I thought it was pretty good though. I like the solo on it.
Yeah, it's a very nice song.
Oh, the song is pretty cool.
Yeah, I agree. The song itself is very nice. I just don't always get the point of adding a random live track like that, because usually when I listen to live tracks, I kind of want to hear it in the context of a concert and not just like a random track taken out of context.
Yeah, it's like you said, I think it's just filler.
Yeah, it would be cooler if there wasn't a DVD version of the same performance.
Oh,
which is
yeah, that's
exactly
right.
the case with the new single as well. I mean, I just make an audio rip of this DVD. Come on.
Yeah, you can just rip it yourself, but you know, maybe people don't know how to do that.
Give us Jealous from the recent concert.
Yeah,
that's the one we want.
That's the one they should have put, but you know, they're probably saving that for some very nice and expensive deluxe box set Blu-ray thing.
Kaisan no Ongaku when they disband.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on to number 8 on the list. James, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, it's Tsukoshi Fushigi by Matsutake Works.
So it's Eiji, the guy from Kodomo A and Kiboya Honpo, right?
Yeah, isn't it Kodomo Ace?
Ace? Really?
I think it is Ace.
Oh yeah, maybe that's it.
Yeah.
I always call them like Kodomo A, because that's how you would say in Swedish, like A is how you say A.
Okay. Yeah, and then what are some other of his bands? Macaroni.
Oh yeah, Macaroni and Sandwich de Yakini Juppen.
Yeah, really some great band names.
Yeah, he's been a staple in the Visual Kei scene since like the late 90s, but all of his bands are kind of weird and electronic usually.
Yeah, I think the main reason this album is on this list is because I liked the 2018 album so much, Yowai Hitotachi. I kind of wish I could put that one on here because this album isn't as good, but it's still a pretty solid album and has some great tracks on it.
Yeah, it's, you know, more of the same. If you like Eiji's like electronic rock Visual Kei, then it's definitely a nice release. And you know, I if I put this album on, I never feel like I want to turn it off or something. I can listen to it the whole way through without a problem.
Yeah, I pretty much like every track.
And it's very, it's not like the kind of Host K-esque electronic Visual Kei, but more kind of like quirky electronic Visual Kei, more in the vein of like bands like Metronome and such.
Yeah, for sure. And it's not entirely electronic too. There's a lot of other instrumentation like guitar and bass.
Oh yeah. It's a full band lineup. Of course, it just has lots of electronics in the background and stuff like that.
And I think this album is actually less electronic than the 2018 one. Also,
yeah, you know what? That might actually be true. I didn't think about that, but yeah. Alexi, do you have any takes on AG?
Man, I'm just waiting for my homies in Macaroni to drop some new heaters for the streets.
Did you hear that there's going to be a Macaroni revival coming up in a few months?
I already booked my flights.
Yeah. Yeah, this is, you have to just get all the vaccinations and tests and stuff.
Well,
it's
man, I already got 4. Just so I make it for sure.
Well, that revival is going to be live streamed, I think, right? So we'll get to check it out.
Oh, really?
I think
so.
so.
Yeah, that's amazing. That would be really
Can
cool.
I get the refunds on the flights? I need to call someone.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on to number 7, we got Blue Film Revival by Caligari. Okay, so Alexi, I heard you had some hot takes on this album, so let's hear them.
Well, it's not really hot, but like when you do a re-recording or a remaster, you always kind of run into the risk of just propping it up like you're putting lipstick on a pig. But in this part, they added a lot of stuff in. There's like flourishes in like the bass lines, and there's a piano that's like pumping up the tracks. It changes the vibe a little bit. It's more grooving, a little more jam session-y, and more in line with new Caligari sound in general. I'm thinking like a not so dark 13. And also Ishii Shuji's voice has matured quite a bit, so it's not so whimsical as before, but more like an older gentleman.
Yeah, I agree with that. I actually like his voice these days more, I think.
I mean, for me at least, I feel like this re-recording is kind of quite faithful to the original. Like I definitely, comparing the songs side by side, I never have to like guess which track is which is kind of nice when you compare it to a band like Deering Gray, who sometimes re-records tracks and they sound absolutely nothing at all like the original. I feel like here they used sort of upgraded parts where they felt like their current skill levels have increased, so they can do something more technical with the material.
Yeah, it's an upgrade. And again, it sounds more like how they sound now. And it also helps them that you cannot really hear the age of the music at all. It sounds just as current now as it did when it was released like 20 years ago.
Yeah, which is quite interesting, because in a way I feel like it has kind of lost its edge in a way, but I can't really tell why. I wonder if it's just because, the original album was recorded at a time in like Visual Kei and in the band itself that kind of gave it some kind of edge. I don't know, which these days I feel like what you mentioned, like the maturity of the updated versions, maybe that's what it lost some youthful energy, but it gained obviously a lot in terms of the actual presentation of the music itself.
Was this the first album with the second Shuji, the original version, I mean?
Yes.
Okay, yes. Yeah, so this is a pretty important album for the band. No wonder they've redone it 3 times. Or they've redone it twice.
Yeah, it's the original has a darker vibe, I guess. This one is them having fun. The new tracks or bonus tracks or whatever, they also reflect that. They're not as serious as they were before.
Yeah, I really like the new tracks. Derry Harry, what is it? Derry Haru Boys, Derry Haru Girls. That's a new track, right? I really like that one.
Yeah, you can kind of tell which are the new songs based on the titles.
Yeah,
because the two new tracks have such silly titles compared
Sex
to the rest.
Sex on the Beach.
Yeah.
it certainly breaks up the atmosphere that the original had in favor of a more lighthearted, sort of loungy take instead.
Yeah, I think so. And again, like, I think it's aged well so far. It will keep on aging very well. Unlike, all the bands that sound like in 10 years, it's gonna be like a turd on a dinner table. And this will still be listened to. Deviluf, I don't know if I can say the same.
Yeah, it's certainly a band that has stood the test of time in a sense. Like, they definitely have a discography which feels like each release is kind of current to its time. So I could definitely recommend checking this band out in general if you haven't done it before. Like, they have a huge discography, but it's definitely worth taking the time to do that. I haven't heard everything myself, of course, because they have so much live limited stuff and such lately, but at least all the albums you could probably quite easily find, and they're very good.
Yeah, they come recommended. I wouldn't bother hunting down all the post-reunion live distributed stuff myself, but you'll do just fine, especially listen to all the albums from the peak years from number 5 to number 8.
All right, so let's move on to number 6 on our list, which is Ningen Shikaku by Mama. Okay, so Alex, I can tell you are raring to go on this one.
Oh yeah? Well, I mean, I don't know how I slept on Bloom Records for so long. I really like Jigsaw a lot. Like, the second I heard them for the first time, I really liked them. With Mama, I can't say the same. I heard some stuff from like early in 2020, and I was like, it's just whatever, some Menhera shit. But now after this mini album came out, I really turned around. So they're like my replacement for Archite now as the Menhera Kings.
Yeah, I kind of have a funny story with this band because they really came out of the left field. Like, when I first heard this band, I was really bad at checking out new releases. So I had an idea that I wanted to change that. So I got a bunch of like very current releases, like from within the last couple of months. And then I put them all on my phone as I was traveling to Poland to host my Visual Kei nightclub in 2020, which ended up getting cancelled due to COVID while I was in the country. But that's another story. But yeah, one of those releases was the single Waisetsu Senshimentaru by Mama. And the title track on that single like really blew me away with its like very mid 2000s new metal sound, and it even has like a proper blast beat, which is very rare in Visual Kei. So I was just instantly hooked, and I feel like this album kind of continues this sound. Like, from the first track, it's just extremely relentless and well produced, like new metal kind of onslaught with some tight and like almost Dex Corgi-Luca-esque riffing at times, but still keeping to the like mid 2000s new metal VK tropes.
And I think the pop sensibility in this one is improved, especially in the PV track.
Oh, I haven't seen the PV shit.
Oh yeah?
But which track is the PV track?
It's the first song, isn't it?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I really like that one, so that would make sense.
Yeah, the chorus is fucking all up in it. The vocalist is really cool. Even in the singles released in 21, when they're doing like a different style again, he's just a cool guy. He's putting it all out there. By the way, did you hear the Corona song? If you haven't, go check it out.
I haven't.
They did it like really early on in 2020, and there is a video which they put out themselves, and there's like toilet paper in it, Corona beer. So they were facing the pandemic with the exactly the kind of attitude that you would expect from bands of this style.
Yeah. James, did you give this one a listen?
Yeah. I thought it was okay.
Yeah, that's...
Yeah, see, you know what? I agree with it. Like, there's a lot of new case stuff from last year that I could have put in here. But for some reason, this is just warming my heart the most probably. And it helps that Jigsaw just put out a single and not a mini album.
Yeah, I want to also give a quick shout out to track number 5, the Token Ballad. I usually kind of feel very meh about ballads from most VK bands that aren't Deering Grey or Mook or such, but this one I quite liked, and I think it helps that the vocals uses some like Mook-esque melodies in the singing. It reminds me of Kuchiki no To, the song, at some point.
Oh, I did like the solo on that one, track 5.
Yeah.
I have to say, really strong ending for this release.
Yeah, the last track as well is nice too. I mean,
yeah, these final 2 are very good.
Yeah, and this one is on Spotify as well, so it's quite easy to give this one a listen wherever you are. Okay, so moving on to number 5. James, this one is your pick. Do you want to present it?
Oh yeah, this is Niji Hajimete Awaru by Adapter. I kind of wish this was a video podcast now because that was some great robot dancing, Alexi, for that sample.
Thank you. It's on my OnlyFans if you want to check that out.
Yeah, he was. It's a very dance-inspiring album. I get why this guy does some like DJing at clubs and such.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so Adapter is the solo project of Fukusuke from Metronome, the guitarist. And it's been a solo project for a long time. I think the first album came out in 2004, and it started out as like kind of a most of the songs were like really simple instrumentals, and then it became sort of a more ambitious project. He brought in guitar more to it and more lyrical songs.
Yeah, I think wasn't it like the project has kind of comes full circle almost in a way, because I think the first release was fully electronic. The very first one, and then he incorporated rock, and then he went back to mostly being electronic.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, this is probably his most electronic album in this style. It sounds really P-Model inspired. Do you guys know P-Model?
Only by name.
Okay, it's Hirasawa Susumu's band. Hirasawa Susumu is an electronic musician, and he produced the soundtracks for Kon Satoshi films like Paprika.
Oh, right, and I suppose that the guys from Metronome are probably fans of his.
Oh, yeah. There's even this one song called P-Money by Metronome that's totally like a P-Model parody. That's on some really, really old omnibus. I forget the name of it, but it's from the year 2000 or something.
Wow. Digging deep into the treasure troves.
Yeah.
That's my rap name.
P-Money.
That doesn't make sense though. You don't have a like P anywhere in your name.
I have one in my underwear, if that counts.
Well.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah, but I kind of get why you selected this album. It's extremely long, so you certainly get like value for the money.
Yeah, this is what the longest album on our list, I think.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's 15 songs long, and I think it was almost 90 minutes. So it was over 80 at least.
Yeah.
Dude, yeah, it was pretty cool, but shit went past like the Ice Age. The first track, I was like, I'm probably not going to be into this too much. But the second one I really liked. And then it was just sort of like on and off for me. Like, I know nothing about this bleep core, so I'm like the James of this segment. But I do like some stuff. I like early Gewalt. I like early Metronome.
Yeah.
But I think the musicianship that it takes to make stuff like this, especially in the Visual Kei context, is super admirable.
Yeah.
It's super unique. Nowhere else is there music like this, I think. And at best, it reminded me a little bit of Jun Togawa's stuff.
Oh, yeah. And that's by design, I'm sure. That's it's definitely an inspiration, I think, for a lot of these bands. Jun Togawa and Yapu's.
Yeah, and this guy Fukusuke is a very interesting character to watch as well. Like his lives are amazing.
Yeah, he's really fun to watch perform. Like he just has a full table of like a bunch of gear and synths, and he's just like messing with everything simultaneously. He's got a thing that's like kind of like a digital theremin. I don't even know what it is exactly, but he's just really fun to watch perform.
Yeah, it's like he looks kind of like a mad scientist sort of like work table when he goes on stage, and he's surrounded by gear on all on all sides and doing things everywhere, and his MCs are super hilarious too, even if you don't even understand it. Just the way he talks kind of makes you laugh.
Yeah, he's really charismatic.
Yeah, and he's has a very particular way of talking. He talks very fast, almost like those Japanese comedians or something like that. So yeah, this is also recommended, and if you enjoy this album, you should probably check out Metronome as well, which is the band where he plays the guitar. Okay, and now before we continue the list, a short ad break from our sponsor.
Hi everyone, it's Alexi here, and I would love to tell you about Rareshut.net. Rareshut is your source for rare and not so rare imported Japanese rock, metal, and Visual Kei outside of Japan. The prices are generally about the same as street prices in Japan, and you can really save a ton on import fees if you shop with them over larger outlets like CD Japan, Tower Records, and so on. Whether it's brand new releases or Visual Kei classics, Rareshut's got it all. I just took a peek at the front page alone, and I already got my eye on some serious classics like Doremidan's Lullaby mini album for $8, odds and ends from newer bands like Roy's Family Party Tour Final DVD for $14, and there's even some weird shit that you never thought you'd see again, like Lastica by Karasu. Yeah, that one. So whether you're destitute and on your way to the poorhouse like me, or absolutely loaded on an oil baron's inheritance, there's something for everyone at Rareshut.net. By the way, if you're enjoying this episode, don't forget to like and subscribe and recommend us to your friends. You can also follow us on Twitter at the VK Podcast and catch new episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and pretty much everywhere else.
Okay, and now that the ad break is over, let's move on to number 4, which is Nemophilia by Nazare. Okay, and since this was your pick, Alexi, do you want to go ahead and start on this?
Yeah, I think we can agree this is our favorite hard metalcore album of the year. You know, outside of stuff like Jiluka's release, Dim Lim, Deviloof, all that stuff. I think this was the most interesting, unique release out of that whole niche.
Yeah, I agree with that as well.
Yeah, I actually liked it. You guys thought I wasn't going to like it, but I was into it.
Yeah, it surprised me a lot actually, because it's very outside of what you usually listen to when it comes to like Visual Kei stuff.
Well, there's a lot of cool guitar stuff. Just there's a lot of like they get the guitars to sound like machinery, and just like there's a lot of weird guitar freakouts at unexpected times that I was really into.
Yeah, I think the weirdness is the appeal for me. Issei is a true Visual Kei auteur. You can just hear him very clearly from this, and you can draw a parallel to his approach with Dim Lim's first mini album. This stuff is all over the place. It's suffocatingly full of stuff that fucking traditional instrument, whatever that they're using sometimes. I don't even know how to feel about that. It's kind of cheesy, yeah, you think, but then at the same time,
it's definitely meaty.
Yeah. It just makes everything even louder and more ferocious. So I think it's a very successful use of it, and I think whatever you say successful at, it's almost by accident. Anyway, he's a master of his craft. I think here some songs are maybe not the greatest, but then on others, it's a kind of craziness that we didn't get this year otherwise.
Yeah, I just want to add about Issei that I feel like he sort of joined DID in the like early 2010s, and then he kind of just grabbed that sound and ran with it. Like he learned the Akane sound in DID, and then he kind of took that and just tried to take it to the extreme.
Yeah, he also learned public relations from
Yeah.
Akane.
He's the drummer, right, Issei?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. He says the drummer, but he's also the main songwriter, and he also is the one who scouts all the band members. So it's kind of like almost, you could definitely call him like the mastermind behind the band. And he did this previously as well for his other band, Dimlim, as well. He scouts like total newcomers to the scene, and he has a great eye for talent, so he puts together a band of newbies so he can like rule them the way he sees fit.
Yeah, he's just as good making them as he's getting kicked out of them.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta be a hard guy to make hard music like this.
Well, that's interesting. That's kind of rare, though, for the drummer to be a leader of the band.
Yeah, and I think that he kind of likes his position behind the drum set as well. I don't want to offend anyone, but he might not be the best looking guy, so he might prefer to have the more pretty boys stand in the front. I don't know. And he's also like 10 years older than all the band members at least.
Oh, is he?
He's been in bands. Yeah, he's been in bands since like 2003 or something like that.
I think Mio is born in late 90s.
Yeah, he is. He was like very early 20s or something like that.
Yeah,
when the band
either which
started.
way, he's really young. And it's the sad that he's a departure from the industry was the reason why they are disbanded.
Yeah, he had some severe mental issues and felt he couldn't continue doing music, which you have to respect, of course.
Yeah, I don't know where how these people find each other. Like Akane is obviously the king of this particular niche. And I have to say, in Akane's defense, also early DID stuff is really experimental for early 2010s Visual Kei.
Yeah, definitely. But back to this album, I kind of want to mention that I feel like it, despite its like being a very extreme album, like you said, it has this feeling that it has so much stuff stuffed into it from all angles that you kind of get almost like listening fatigue after a while when you hear it. But I still feel like there's quite a lot of variation as well in between all the chaos. Like you have some tracks that are a bit more catchy, and some tracks, like track 7 kind of sounds like modern Lynch, for example.
Yeah, I agree. Trauma has some Kizu-esque synth, and probably my favorite part of the album is Kazumubito stealing the strings from Art of Life. It sounds like he just sampled it straight out of the song.
Yeah, so I still think the biggest surprise of this album was the fact that James liked it. I don't know.
Yeah, I
It's
think so,
just,
dude. That was strange. It's not very beginner friendly, I think, but hey.
Yeah,
Like another beginner, let's say, but sometimes you think like, be easing people into this kind of music, you have to give them something that's a little more palatable. But then at the same time, like if it's interesting, it's just interesting. So
maybe it has something to do with the fact that you play the guitar and stuff, so you appreciate weird guitar things.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, anything innovative with a guitar, I'm usually interested in, even if it's not the usual thing I'd listen to.
Yeah, and I kind of get that. Sometimes I actually feel more interested to hear something very extreme and far out than something kind of watered down that's supposed to be palatable for the masses.
yeah, and when I said like this was the most out there metalcore release in Visual Kei, Gianluca kind of was a letdown because they've been known to making really crazy stuff with all that rap rock influence. But their album from last year, really straightforward, I think. They're probably the most focused overall release, but that also comes at the expense of the craziness. So that's what put Nazare over the top instead.
Yeah, it's a representation of the whole style on this list, basically. Okay, so moving on to spot number 3 on our list, we have Seishoku by Sukekyo. Okay, so personally, I feel like this one gets in on the list on the artistic merits of the track alone, because it's certainly not a catchy song.
Yeah, on a personal note, it could be my release of the year. Why? Because it's fucking different. It's coming from a very standardized and codified genre. And now we got a song that's actually using like clipping as an instrument. That's an automatic song of the year, just on that alone.
Yeah, this song's weird as heck. I remember when we listened to it the first time a while back, we thought it was broken, the file was damaged or something, because it just sounds so weird.
Yeah, exactly that. It uses I think it's like microphone popping or something like that. It uses for as a rhythm instrument almost.
Yeah, some sort of digital artifacting.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just been taking through all the 10,000 descargar filters, and this is the end result.
Yeah, it's just like, they took one of the tracks and transcoded it 100 times, and that's what they ended up with.
Yeah, maybe that's what they did.
But yeah, I have to say that it's an extremely ominous song. Like, it definitely does have a very foreboding atmosphere going on, and Kyo's chanting and everything, it gives it a very otherworldly feeling.
Yeah, these guys are serious musicians with serious ambitions, and this is one of those songs where you can hear it. Obviously, their albums from the last decade are, I think, all worth listening to. One of them might be my favorite Visual Kei album of the last 10 years.
Yes, so that's a spoiler for our future episode when we do the best albums of 2010 to 2020.
Yeah, I'm not going to say which album it is, except that it's Adoratio. Otherwise,
yeah, so I really can't either recommend this band enough. It's certainly one of those standout projects in Visual Kei that I feel like I would be comfortable recommending this band to anyone who likes experimental and interesting music in general, not just fans already initiated in VK.
Yeah, there doesn't need to be a chorus and everything. Just open your mind.
Yeah, I don't see this song becoming a club hit or anything like that, but it's definitely nice to listen to. And I think it was labeled as a demo version, this song, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Yeah, it is labeled as a demo version. Did they ever release a proper version of it?
No, they did eventually release a full version of the other track, which was also live distributed, I believe. But yeah, I would presume... Well, it's actually not a guarantee that it will be on the next album, because the one that was released on the Adoratio DVD did not make it into Infinitum. So anything can happen.
And this was only released on cassette too, right?
Yes, I believe so. So it might be that it was just like an interesting experiment that they wanted to put on this kind of release, because I don't know if it's a song they play live either.
As far as I know, no.
Yeah, so it might just be like an interesting experiment that they felt like putting out, but maybe not promoting heavily. Either way, it's a great little tape, and I definitely think it's worth listening to just for the artistic merits alone. And moving forward to how do you say, the silver medalist, I suppose, the second place, we have Jigoku by Kizu. Yeah, Alexi was getting really pumped there during the sample.
Yeah, it was some more good dancing.
Dude, this band is fucking awesome. They are the kings of Visual Kei right now for me. I think they have the highest ceiling when it comes to serious bands. A band like The Raid or Golden Bomber doesn't count. Fantastic showman and musicianship. When you look at them playing live on the two of the DVDs they released, or some of the DVDs that came with a single, it's so good. They look like actual stars, and not just some random dudes playing music with their friends and just being happy to be there. And I haven't really felt that in a long time.
Yeah, I feel like they're one of the few bands of this generation that have kind of been able to carry that mantle, that have been able to like approach that level of serious musicianship. Like you feel like you're watching something big, you know, like this is a band that can really make it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think their experimentation musically is a little under acknowledged. They got more variety than people give them credit for. They just don't gimmick up their music and just play to their strengths, which is high octane, tight, high emotion bangers.
Yeah, I was going to say that, like, their music is extremely high energy and the execution is so sleek and so flawless. I really can't praise this band enough. Like, they don't put out a lot of songs, but the ones they put out are always really good. I can't name a bad single by them yet.
Yeah, me neither.
I didn't really care much for Black Rain, but it's not a bad song at all.
No, it's an addition to the discography, and it's a variety, which is the main criticism that people usually throw out, but it's different.
Yeah, exactly. They need some variety, so I think that's fair. James, did you get a chance to listen to this one?
I forgot to listen to this one. Sorry.
God damn it! I was really curious. I really wanted to know what you thought about it.
Yeah, actually, same, because I feel like this is another one of those bands that have.
I thought at least you would be able to appreciate the guitar stuff in it. But here we go, the
It
Visual Kei
sounded cool.
Podcast,
I like the sample.
best researched, most knowledgeable podcast on the internet.
Yeah.
So yeah, and also I want to mention that there's a nice ballad as well as a B-side, which is called 15.2, which is
that song is really good. It was on the Kataki compilation CD that came out this year.
Yeah.
And that's when I really woke up to just how good that song is.
Yeah, it's in general, I feel like this band is one of those bands that most of our listeners probably are familiar with already, given that they are quite popular, but I also feel like if you haven't listened to them, then it's not that difficult to do because their discography is quite small, and I think the Kataki compilation album covers almost all of their songs so far.
All the bases. There's obviously some B-sides left out, but that's the perfect primer to get into these guys.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's neat with a band that has a small discography, but, you know, all the songs are good, so there's no filler, basically. Okay, moving on. In first place, cue drum roll. We have the album by Rands, which we don't actually know how to pronounce, so I will read both. It's either Kusozu or Kuaizu, depending on where you read it.
I was expecting the air horn. Oh yeah, there we go.
And now the sample.
Huh.
We forgot the sample. The song sample.
Oh, right.
Wow. Yeah, when I was doing the research for this episode, I was kind of shocked to realize that this album was released in 2020 because, you know, it was released in January, like when Corona was still just a distant thing over in China. So I feel like it was 10 years ago at this point, like the pre-Corona days. But yeah, this album was apparently released last year. Who knew? And it's a extremely good album, I would say. But it also, I'm very aware that it caters strongly to my taste. It's a very Art K album, so to say. It's very mellow, complex, depressive. Those are some of the words I would use to describe it. It's inspired by old Nagoya Kei bands, but in a updated suit, and also borrowing some stuff from Nine Goats Blackout and Ambergris and those kind of bands. It has a similar guitar tone, like low levels of distortion, and I think the main problem is that the vocals are a bit of an acquired taste. How do you guys feel about it?
How's the tannins on it?
Yeah,
that's gonna be an inside joke, I think.
Yeah, I was like, what?
No,
it's a wine tasting reference.
Yeah, like how does this album feel in the mouth? What's the mouth feel on this album?
It feels like plastic. Well, this was always right from the start of the year, this was going to be in the running for my album of the year, and it actually is. As far as actual albums go, easily my favorite ones. I'm a big Karma fan, and I think this transition from, okay, albeit very memorable, nu metal K to this middle of the 90s sound is just perfect for him. I feel like that's what he actually wants to do. He's a big fan of Visual Kei, I think, in general. But the real star of this release, I think, is actually the guitarist. He does a lot of cool stuff in there, taking cues from like serious adult music, like shoegaze and classic goth tunes. But then obviously,
shoegaze is serious adult music.
Yeah, and obviously a shitload of rouage. And I think actually on the sample, when I was just listening to it, I was like, that reminds me a little bit of Merry Go Round.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised because they are very inspired by the old Nagoya bands. I think that though that you say that you're a big fan of Karma, the vocalist, but like I mentioned, I think that's sort of like a contested thing for a lot of people. His vocals are very delicate, kind of almost asthmatic. It definitely fits this style of music though, since it's a kind of fragile sound in general in the music. His voice reminds me a bit of the vocalist of Plastic Tree.
I think I can see that, sort of. I see what you're saying though. The vocals didn't particularly stand out to me as the most interesting aspect of the music. I think the instrumentation is a lot more interesting, especially the guitar, but also the bass. The bass was really well done. I think there was even a bass solo on track 7, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, and I think the bass stands out in quite a few of the tracks. Like track 4 is my favorite, and I think the bass really shines on that one as well.
Yeah, that one's my favorite too, actually.
Yeah, so I think overall it's just a very solid lineup in general, where all the members kind of interact in a good way.
Yeah.
And I think another thing that's very nice is the length of the album. It's quite short. It's only 26 minutes long, which is on the very low end for a full-length album. But I think that also...
Yeah, it's like 1/4 of Adapter.
Yeah, but it also means that, you know, you never feel fatigued listening to it. You can easily breeze through this album in a sitting and not even notice that it's gone.
Yeah, you can immediately repeat it even. Nothing stays past its welcome.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I feel as well. It's just a nicely condensed album in general, and I feel like the level of musicianship and what's it called? Fuck English.
Are you trying to find the translation for surströmming?
No, I'm trying to find the right word for how to, you know, I feel like it's a very ambitious release, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I feel like the band in general felt like a very ambitious project, even though it only lasted a year or so. It felt like it was a very ambitious project, like you said, trying to borrow influences from various different areas and stuff.
Yeah, but it's not kitschy at all. I think it's easily the best retro band overall. And I will stand by this, by the way. It's not their definitive statement, maybe, because the first mini-album is very strong. I like that one, especially for its overt Kuroyume influence. But I think the musicianship here is more subtle. The songs are lighter and slightly poppier.
I feel like this album also is less of a tribute case sort of deal, and more sort of, you know, they have integrated the influences kind of into their own sound. Like I said, like they're blending the kind of like modern art case sort of vibes with the 90s material. So yeah, overall I feel like this album is a good representation of what I like in Visual Kei, and apparently what Alexi likes in Visual Kei as well, since it managed to reach number 1 on the list.
We are basically like a fucking school talent show board where one of the people in the competition is our relative.
Yeah.
And they're like, you know what? She's so talented.
Yeah, I mean, this was always going to be a popularity contest, given that it was a top 10 of our personal choice and not some kind of attempt at an objective, skill-based top 10, whatever.
Although, I have to say though, if I would really have a gun to my head and say like, what's the best album of 2020, it would probably be this one. It was just a nice breath of fresh air, I think, especially when they were going for the retro gimmick, but they weren't doing the same old Deering Gray gauze influenced stuff that...
Yeah, I agree, and I think that, it's pretty sad that the band didn't really get a chance to develop. They had a very short lifespan, and I think they disbanded just a few months after this, in May or something like that.
Yeah, after a very uninteresting single that even got karma cancelled on Twitter.
Yeah, I really liked that single though, because it was kind of like a meme at that point, how many references to Kuroyume songs can we cram into one.
Or to Nirvana. Just when I called this band original, by the way, I totally forgot about the last single, which is like legitimately just a mashup of different stuff that they felt like stealing. I would really love to know if that's on purpose or not.
I think I counted 3 or 4 different Kuroyume riffs borrowed from 3 or 4 different songs in the title track, and I think that's also the one that had the Nirvana riff. So yeah, it's basically stitched together with a tribute.
See, in a way I kind of appreciate it. To be honest, if I had a band, it would probably do exactly this.
Yeah. So anyway, those were our top 10 picks of last year, and before we finish up, I guess, do you guys have some quick honorable mentions that didn't quite make the list?
Yeah, we decided to restrict our honorable mentions to just 2 picks, but what we're going to do is that we'll try to compile a Spotify playlist of all kinds of 2020 Visual Kei that you otherwise wouldn't have bothered to check out or you just didn't hear about, because I've seen a lot of people complain that there was nothing released in 2020, and that's just not true, and a lot of it is on Spotify. So we'll put that down there in the description if you want to check that out. The 2 albums that I want to mention are 2 very interesting outsider releases, which is this very strange sound. It's Kebio's Kaitai Shinsho Reivaban and Yuma Leap's Dead Matter. 2 very weird bands with interesting vocalists, especially the latter one. You'd think they would be kind of average at a first glance, but that's not the case at all. I think if you're like actually looking for like stuff that sounds different in today's Visual Kei, I would check those 2 out.
Yeah, that sounds nice.
This sounds nice.
I also Wait, that was a bit dismissive.
That's great news, honey. Put it on the fridge.
Okay, sorry. Okay, I will redo that. Sorry, I will redo that. Sorry. Okay, yeah, I concur with the first one. I really enjoy the last track called White on that one. I haven't heard the second one, but I think it will be on my list of things to check out shortly. Moving on to my honorable mentions, I don't really have a lot either, since we decided to limit ourselves to 2, but I wanted to give a shout out to my friends in Madman's Esprit, the Korean Visual Kei band. They released 2 singles in 2020, which were very nice. They do like Visual Kei mixed with black metal, which is quite an original approach. So check them out if you have time. And secondly, I wanted to give a shout out to the debut album of the project Ainori Technos, which is sort of like an Angura supergroup, which does very funny live streams with like dancing and stuff, and they play electronic music, which is quite nice and happy. Yeah, it's just a very very funny band.
That should have been our top pick, honestly.
They just make me really happy listening to. So,
Alexi, it's just.
No, I was just gonna say. I was just gonna say that's nice.
Don't. Whoa, no. Okay, yeah, so those were basically the two bands I wanted to give a quick shout out to. Hopefully they will do some more stuff in the future. James, do you have any shout outs?
Yeah, way back in January of 2020, my favorite band, Shinjuku Gewalt, dropped a single, Gekijo Toshi. That was live only, though you can order it from their website now, that I really like. The reason why I didn't want to put it on this list is because it's just too obscure, that band. It's also only a single.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff I wanted on this list, but I realized it was too shitty, so I didn't insist on it. If you have to know anything about your boy Alexis, that he samples the bottom shelf wines as much as he reaches for the top shelf.
Yeah, but otherwise, like, honestly, I feel like what I enjoyed most about 2020 was the live streams.
Yeah, that was really nice, because a lot of bands you had never been able to see live footage of in video format in any way, suddenly you could actually see them live, which was really nice.
Yeah,
especially our number one pick, Rants, doing their last live.
Yeah,
for the audience of about 200 people, and then the live stream was cut, and it started on another like video, and then the audience was like halved, and I was like, oh no.
Yeah, I think half of the people didn't realize they were going to continue on a different link. That's just very poor marketing, I feel.
Yeah, but that's like the story of the band in general. Like, if I had any tears left to cry, I would have shed a few for my boys in Rants.
Yeah, but yeah, so I agree that live streams just has really sort of changed the market, and I kind of feel like it's here to stay at this point almost. Maybe not in the same extent, but all the venues have invested in live streaming equipment now, so it would only make sense for them to try to make a few extra bucks every now and then.
Yeah, I sure hope so, and I think it's proven to be lucrative for them. So I hope so for us foreigners.
Yeah,
I think Deer and Grey made a lot of money with their live streaming in the spring.
Yeah, and also, it's very low effort. But a lot of those venues, they do like a fixed camera angle, and then just like take the board audio feed straight into the camera and then out into a computer. So it really doesn't require much of anything for them to do, I imagine. So I hope it will stick around. Maybe it won't be quite as prevalent, but it probably will happen more than it did before the corona pandemic. If you want to say something, nice about 2020 to end the pod with.
Yeah, for sure. That's definitely one of the few benefits of 2020 live streams.
Yeah, I mean, we're halfway through 2021 and things are still going the same way, but I'm quite optimistic for the second half of the year for things to pick up.
Yeah, I mean, sort of like movie theaters are open now.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how it is in Japan, but I know a lot of bands have started proper touring and stuff again.
The Tokyo Olympics.
Yeah, let's not.
Can we get an air horn for the Tokyo Olympics?
Let's not give our takes on the Tokyo Olympics now. Yeah. But yeah, hopefully you guys have found something cool from our list that you will be able to listen to and maybe develop some new favorites along the way.
Yeah, I think most of what we picked should be easy to find online on Amazon or iTunes, Spotify, things like that.
Yeah, a lot of these things are actually on Spotify, which is pro doing recent releases, because a lot of these things have been released digitally, unlike older stuff. Okay, so I think that's all for today. So thank you everyone for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Chai-chan.
No.
Woo.
No, that was our new sponsor, the Chinese government.
Oh.
Sayonara.